I don't care what you look like or what you think. I don't care what you do or where you're from. All I care about is that gift hidden inside you. And all I want to do is help it come alive. Because where we're going, we're going to need a lot of heroes. For the record, 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by Momentum Lab. The point of Momentum Lab is to turn idealists into impactors by aligning your dreams and aspirations with success in every area of your life today. Momentum Lab is like a playground for your highest self. We take your dreams seriously and help you remove any blocks to realizing them. We do this through courses, virtual events, in-person events, and our signature year-long accelerator. To join our world, engage in dialogue, meet up in person, and just blow your mind, sign up at momentumlab.com. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Ankur Shah, and this is 10,000 Heroes. So today's episode it's an interview, but it's a little bit different in how it turned out. And again, I'm looking for inspiration and support for people who are trying to live a life of purpose, as I imagine every single one of you is. And there's different ways we do that. And sometimes we bring forth people that are like, hey, I went through all these struggles, I had all these challenges, I confronted them, I dealt with my shit, and now I'm living a life that's in harmony with my purpose, what I'm trying to do. And sometimes, there's just all kinds of things that we do. But today, as I was doing that pattern of like, hey, Rik, this is like you finally figured out what it means for you to be an artist. You've managed to like figure out the economic side of it on one hand and the more of the meaning and satisfaction and creative side on the other hand. But we got to this moment where there was something that I just wanted to pick at. And normally I wouldn't do that because these are conversations. They're somewhere between interviews and conversations. They're not coaching calls. But I just couldn't resist, and I went into that mode a little bit, and I just kind of picked on him, gentle and loving, compassionate way. And he was just super present and receptive and really went there. And there was this really beautiful moment. And that's kind of the whole second half of the call. And I love that. So that's what this is today. It's a bit different, but I think the resonance of this is going to be strong. So my idea is that if Rik and I got into a really present and vulnerable space together, and there's long silences that I'm just going to leave in there as part of that, then maybe you will too. So that's the hope. The hope is always about you and its effect on your life. So may this be a gift. May this be a blessing. And let me know. Let me tell you what I'm kind of looking for. And then maybe we'll get to this and maybe we won't. But what I want to do with this show is inspire and support everyone who's listening to be like, yeah, I don't have to continue with this senseless grind anymore. I can tune in to what really makes me come alive and I can do it. That's like one of the key messages I want to give. And so one of the ideas is I'd interview people who have some familiarity with that, who have done it. I deal with some amount of success in some area of their life. So do you relate to that journey?
Oh yeah, for sure. And in fact, so this is what pops into my mind. When I first moved to New York, I moved here to be an actor. And the very first job I got was at a Ben & Jerry's scooping ice cream. And I learned one of my biggest lessons about art working at that ice cream store. There was this moment, it was like a Friday night or a Saturday night, July in New York City. The line was out the door. We were near NYU. Just everyone was there and everyone was coming in to get ice cream. And, you're just at it. You're in the zone. And I was just scooping them. And I handed it to this guy and he looked at it. And he's like, that is a beautiful ice cream cone. He's like, that just made this a little bit better. Cause you know what? Any day with ice cream is a good day. And he walked out and it was like, it just kind of kept going in my head the whole time. I'm like, for whatever reason, that ice cream cone was a little bit prettier than all the other ones I had done. And for some reason, he saw that and it affected him. And that this was ice cream, like all of a sudden, like all of my thoughts of like, oh, I want to create art and theater and like, touch people. Serving ice cream was doing all of that. It was absolutely an art form. So what I really tried to do is each ice cream cone that I made from then on, I really tried to just be in the moment. And even if it wasn't perfect, it would be as perfect as it could be in that moment. And I was connected to it. And then I was connected to the person that I was giving it to. And like, okay, these are $4 ice cream cones. But it was more than that. It was an interaction with another human being. It was changing their day. By doing this as an artist, it was changing my day. And I wasn't getting precious about it. It was service. And I'm like, art is service. It's not this thing where you get awards on a red carpet or whatever the carpet was last night. It's like art is a service. It's a service to ourselves, to each other, to the planet, and it changed me how I look at everything I do. Now I can't say that every night I was able to do that, but that was what I strove to do. And that's what I strive to do now.
Okay. All right. I love that. So let's like put that, kind of contextualize that in time. Up until that point, why did you want to be an actor and what did you think art was about?
Up until that point, I think that I didn't really know what art was about. And I was reading things and listening to things and had mentors and, actors that I liked. And I was listening to what they said. And I'm like, oh, that's what art is. That's what acting is. Like I was searching for my connection to what they said was true. And it was in that summer that I realized, no, art is my art. You don't have to like it. It doesn't have to touch you, but all I can do is my art. And if it vibes with you, then great. And if it doesn't, I still have to just keep working at it and perfecting it and be as good at it as possible. And by exploring that, I'm finding out what art is. And that's what an artist is to do. It's not to find this like equation. That's math. Math is the equation of here's the answer. Let's figure out how to get there. Art is there is a truth that only I know, and I will keep learning about it as long as I keep seeking it. And that's what art is. That's what an artist's job is to do. So that's what I try and do.
And can that truth that only you know be fully known?
No, I mean, because I change, like every experience I have will like make me realize something, become more humble, become more intelligent, become more aware, become more hurt, like I keep changing as I go through life. So my perception of things, my knowledge, my wisdom, I mean, I'm a much different man today than I am 10 years ago and 10 years before that, and so with that comes, I don't think art is a goal. I think it's like life. It's the journey. It's not the end goal. It's not the award. It's not the accolades. It's not the follows. It's that you just keep seeking whatever it is in front of you that you think you should seek or that's interesting or inspiring. And that's an artist's life, is just to live, to be, to explore.
Wow. All right. So you had this epiphany that taught you about what you knew you wanted to dedicate your life to it, but you got a lot more clarity through the ice cream shop.
Yes. Yeah.
And then how did you integrate that knowledge into your journey?
It took a long time. And oddly, I had to get out of acting to really pursue it. So like, as an actor, I built like a nice little career for myself. I did voiceover for Japanese animation. I was in a national TV commercial. At one point, I had 3 films come out, all independent, but one of them went to Sundance. Like I was up for, one of 5 or 7, whatever they have, movies that was like, whatever. It was a highlight for an actor. And I met with this agent big agent at, I think, CAA. And I went in and I'm like, here's the soap operas that I was on and the TV shows and the movies and like all this stuff. Like, here's my work. What I'm not good at is I'm not good at selling myself. And this is clearly a business. So I'm going to Sundance and I need a team of people who understand what I don't. And that's what I'm looking for. And he's like, this is great, man. This is great. Let's see what you can do. I'm like, cool. Here is everything that I've done, from plays to, he's like, no. Let's see how you do at Sundance. And I'm like, the movie? He's like, the movie and you. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not good at that. I need a team. I need a community. And he's like, we will only represent you if you're valuable. And I was like, and the only way I'm valuable is if people want me, if I prove that I'm valuable. He's like, now you got it. I'm like, so when I don't need you anymore, that's when you'll come into the picture. He's like, yeah, I hate to say it, but yes. And I was like, I was shocked. It was true, but I didn't like it. It's not what I wanted to believe. I wanted like a community where people like pull for you and you help people and they help you. And, it's not what I was getting. And then I went to Sundance and I have a Val Kilmer story, but that's just funny. But
okay, just because I have no background in this. So
yeah,
your movie is in Sundance.
Yeah. That was in. I acted in.
Yes, the movie you acted in is in Sundance. Judges presumably are going to watch it. They're going to vote, and then some movie I see is going to have this like thing on the front that says best film in Sundance. Maybe that was yours. But exactly. Why are you going personally?
Because I was one of the lead actors in it. So we go and this is what I didn't know. I thought that Sundance would be like all these amazing people who love film and work in film talking about film. And that's not what it was. It was people there with agendas. And so to sum it up, so I had this great conversation. There was this guy and we were talking, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, just going through films that we loved and stuff. And he's like, I said something. He's like, wait, did you say you produced Beyond the Ocean or are you saying you're an actor in it? I was like, no, I'm one of the leads in it. He's like, hey, Rik, man, you're awesome. If we were at a dinner party in LA, I would talk to you all night about movies because we're on the same thing. He's like, but I am here to get my next movie made. I thought you were a producer on it. I'm sorry. Best of luck. I will come see the film. I got to find my money, people. And he walked away and I was like, yep, that's what this is. This is a business thing. And that's fine, but it's not what I want. It's not what I'm good at. There are people who are great at it, and there's an art in that. Just like scooping ice cream, there's an art in getting business made and getting funding and all of that. It's not my art.
Yeah.
And I walked away from Sundance a little jaded, like we didn't win.
You went into it knowing that. You went into it looking for the business partner because you were like, hey, I'm not the business guy. I'm the talent. I want my business guy to come with me or lady, help me out. And the agent, presumably that was their industry, like, hey, you have to be both.
Yeah. Yep. And yes, that is true. So it was each step of the way, it was chipping away at my naivete that, hey, let's get a barn and put on a play and we'll change the world. It's like, it's not, it is absolute business. And I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at it. So after Sundance, I stayed with it like another 6 or 7 months. And I was like, I can't do this. This is not where my heart is. Like there's no end result here where I'm happy. And so I stepped back and I'd been working behind the camera at this point, like, in commercials and I became a location scout and I picked up a camera and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. It was a pivot that I didn't even know I needed. And it happened out of pure frustration, out of getting to a point where I'm like, I'm not happy. This isn't working. This is not what I want. So I just threw my hands up in the air. And there was a couple of years of like, did I do the right thing? Am I a failure or whatever? But then with the camera, it's a different thing where I can see something and I take the picture and I light it and I do whatever I want. And I don't need an entire team. It's the photo is done and I look at it and I'm like, that's beautiful. That's what I saw, or that's what came out of me, or that's my journey. That's my art. And if it doesn't make $1 million, if it doesn't win an award, that's okay, because I still made it. And you can't do that with film unless, you have your camera and, you do everything yourself. So I found photography was just good for me, just the way I work.
And so going back to Ben and Jerry's,
yeah,
you see it as a service.
Partly, yes, partly.
And
all art needs to be a service.
Do you get to take pictures of what you want to show, or is it all like, how do you handle the whole commercial aspect where people are like, here, this is Tide or whatever?
Right. So interesting. So my main bread and butter is as a location scout. So let's say you're doing,
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
So you're doing a Budweiser commercial, right? You're Budweiser, and you're like, we want to do a commercial.
I'm Budweiser.
You're Budweiser. You hire an agency, they come up with this really clever thing. You're like, great, let's go with that. Here's $1 million. They go out and they find a director and a production company, and they go, hey, we're going to give you $500,000 from the $1 million we have, make a commercial. Next thing that happens is the director comes up with his concept or her concept, and then they call me and they say, okay, we want to have a maiden on a horse riding past a falling apart castle and then riding through the streets of Times Square. And we want to have it all happen in one day. And we have this amount of money. Find us all the options. So I go out and I find anything that can look like a dilapidated castle. Can we make it? Is there one that already exists? Like, where I explore, I research. It's super fun. I take pictures. I present them to the director, sell him on it. He's like, oh, this is great. Then I make the permits happen, the police happen, like all the logistics. And so by the time everyone shows up to film the commercial, my job is almost over, because all of my creativity went into getting us to that moment where then they take it and run with it. And it's either great or it's not. But like, that's what I do as a location scout. And part of that is photography. And I never took photos really, But then because of this, I just said, well, I want to get a little bit better. I can do this a little bit better. I'd see someone else's pictures. I'm like, oh, wait, you can do a bokeh on? What's this? And I just kept getting better and better. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm good at this. At least to me, I'm good at this. So I make all my money doing location scouting. But then okay, so I had this job for Toyota, this great job. It was a Japanese photographer, and basically they would give me a month at a time, and they'd be like, do Route 66, do 3 weeks in Texas, and find everything within 200 miles of Route 66 that is amazing. Best job of my life. I would see a dirt road, and I'd be like, I wonder what's down there. And I'd drive for an hour, and there'd be nothing. Or I'd drive the other direction, and it's like, you've got to be kidding me. There is this waterfall in the middle of the desert, on someone's land, and you knock on the door, and he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll show you the waterfall. And then you go back and you're like, this is amazing. So while I was doing my job and meeting people and doing a great job, I was also finding these things for myself. And I have all these photographs of an America that like you may not see, that probably most people won't see. I've seen more in New York than, 99.9% of people who've lived here their entire lives. I've been deep under the subway. I've been on the top of the Verrazano Bridge. I've been everywhere. And so when I go there for work, I also take pictures for me. So my art is an exploration of the world that we live in, that I've been privileged to see through my job, and trying to capture those moments that if I wasn't there, might just be missed and might be lost forever. And so I'm trying to just share the world that I'm seeing with people. That's my art. And I feel that that's a service.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this has really clarified it for me. And it's got these interesting two poles, because there's this one side that's like the commercial, you're doing it for money, but the actual actions involved in that really make you come alive.
Yes.
You're totally stoked about it. And it's, in a way, it's not, maybe it's not art in the same way that your photography is, but you love it, and you're thrilled, and you feel like privileged that you just get to do all this research, and it's a lot of creativity.
It is. It's a lot of crap, but everything is. But yes, there's enough creativity I think the key is figuring out what you're good at and what you want to be good at, you know? And there's two different things. And like, I'm not good at business. I'm not good at drumming up business. So I just cut off any of those things and said, I'm not going to do it because it'll make me miserable and I'll never be as good as it as the next person. But then I was like, I love to explore. I have a terrible sense of direction and I'm constantly getting lost, which means I find really cool things. It just takes me longer. I like talking to people. I just took all of my skills. And when I looked at it, I'm like, these are the jobs that I can do. And then from that, you get better at the things that you're not great at. And you ramp up what you are good at and what you want to do. And that's where I've found happiness and art in life and a job.
Yeah.
Because I'm sick of being a poor actor.
Yeah. Okay. So then there's a place I want to go, and I'm going to try and get there, because that's what we do. Yeah. We have a place we want to go. We try and get there. How do you share your photographs?
I have, like social media and stuff. I have like 1,000 people on Instagram and like 60,000 on TikTok because of the trip that I took during the pandemic. And then that's where it ends. Like, I have people that will contact me and be like, hey, can I have a picture? And I blow them up a picture. I send them a digital thing, but like, I'm not good at sharing what I have. So I'm working with someone right now who's helping me to try to put a book together. And my girlfriend is helping me try and like make a proper website. But like, I'm just here to take the pictures. And I just hope that someone helps me take it beyond that and share it with people. But
the same team that you were looking for before Sundance. You want that team.
And it's because it's a deficiency in me. I am hardworking. Like, I love what I do. I'm good at what I do, but I just can't sell. I can't provide. I can't share, except for Instagram. And that makes me super happy. Like, there's 1,000 people that follow me or something, like, but they're genuinely there because they like my pictures. And that's all I need. I make enough money to be able to go on vacation and have health insurance. And so if someone else can look at my picture and be like, awesome, that gave me a moment of a pleasure or peace or something to think about, I think that's enough for me. I'd like to be a little bit greedier, but it's enough.
Yeah. So now I'm really curious, and I want to deconstruct and dissolve this word business and this idea that you're not good at business, and get a little bit more, if you're willing.
Sure.
In detail. There's like, what business is like, just there's a lot of things in business. And I can tell just from the way we're talking right now and your quickness and your confidence that there's many of those things in business you probably are good at. Mm-hmm. But there's obviously some things that you're either not, or you don't want to, or you have some aversion or some resistance, or you just don't like it. What are the parts that you're not good at?
Selling myself. Like so I've had some great jobs as a photographer, like, but they've all been people that have reached out to me and been like, hey, we've seen your work. We'd like to hire you. They come to me. I'm not good at promoting myself. It makes me feel well, I guess it's a little bit scary, but it also feels a little bit gross,
Yeah, I know.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I didn't just discover something nobody knows. And I never found a way to get over that. Like, I never want to be at a party where I'm not wanted. If you invite me, I am the life of the party. But if I don't feel welcome, I close up. And so I don't want to be there for that. So I don't want that in my life, like it makes me feel less than what I am. So I've tried to not put myself in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think so? Okay, I'll give a little background. So I have this coaching program. We met through Angela, who's in the program. One of the things that we work on with people, we work on a lot of things, but the people in the program tend to be like artists or healers or something where there's a real commitment to something outside of their own personal material benefit. They're acting out of a desire for more goodness or more truth, more beauty. And many of those people, myself included, have a real resistance to marketing in general. There's like the amount of times that we hear on a call, like, hate marketing, it's almost like, okay, everybody here, one thing that brings us all together, we all hate marketing. And in order for these people's projects to succeed, like they have to get over that. They have to get beyond that. And one way of doing it is your strategy that I think is great is just get a team and get people that are more comfortable doing marketing, But for many small projects, like you can't hire people immediately, or maybe there are people who are willing to like volunteer or take a risk or be partners. So they have to like deal with some of this themselves. And I of course, I'm doing the program, but I'm also like in it. And I have a similar amount of resistance, right? And so I'm investigating this for myself and for the people in the program. And now we're talking about it. So what is it that feels gross for you about this self promotion? Because like you're totally comfortable talking to me about what you're doing. And you don't have that like a false modesty. Like when you're good at something, you're comfortable saying, I'm good at it. When you're bad at something, you're comfortable saying I'm bad at it. So that doesn't feel gross. At least in this context.
It's the wanting of something from someone. And we talked about this earlier, service. Like, I'm happy to share me with you. I'm happy to share my photography, my art, my thoughts, my time. I'm happy to share that. I don't feel comfortable asking or wanting something from someone else. If that makes sense.
All right. Let's say, so I used to work as a chef. And let's say I open a restaurant in New York City, and I haven't lived in New York City for a long time. So I'm just going to pick a random neighborhood. I don't know what's going on in that neighborhood, but let's say it's in the Lower East Side, Mulberry Street, the street I used to remember. And it's all, I have all these connections to local farmers. So it's all local. It's all organic. And there's this, my family's from Gujarat. So there's this whole kind of like Indian flair to it. But I lived in Lebanon. So there's this like Lebanese thing. And it's, food, the city, you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And I'm like, all right, I'm thinking about charging $7 a plate. And you're like, hey, I don't know that it's going to pencil out. It's $7 a plate. But I'm having trouble charging more than that. What would you, like, as Rik, what would you tell this friend of yours?
What would I tell my friend?
Yeah.
I would say, you're an amazing chef. You have great food. You're bringing people together. I think you have to make it worth your time so that you don't burn out. Like in an aircraft, they always say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then help others. So, make it reasonable, but make it enough so that you're paying for what you need and you surround yourself with the people and they're getting paid and you feel okay about it and you're taking care of yourself, because that will help everyone else.
Yeah. And because what this guy is producing is really going to benefit. Like people are going to have it's going to enrich their lives. And you're like, hey, I understand you don't want to gouge people. Don't gouge people. But you can still, there's a middle ground between self-abnegation and profiteering. So what if I tell you that?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that I see where you're going with this. Yeah, I mean, yes, it makes sense. Makes sense. It makes sense. it's a little bit scary to think about. I don't know why yet. I mean, I keep coming up with like reasons that I could say about it, but like I think they're all just like heady reasons. I think at my core, like there's like this little gulp of fear thinking about that. Like, okay, what if I actually did do that? There's just a little bit of fear there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an interesting difference. And this to me gets tied up with the word entrepreneurship, which my friend Matt, who's co-founder of this coaching program, and one of my, my best friends since freshman year of college, he's like really like my entrepreneurial sage, right? Like I've been like anti-marketing, anti-capitalist my whole life. And Matt has been like, hey, there's actually some truth over here in the midst of all this like capitalist clusterfuck. And it's in this entrepreneurship thing. So part of what I'm learning, I'm still in this process of learning, is that there's being good at something, which you can acknowledge, I can acknowledge. And then there's this idea that our work or our creation or art has worth to other people. Actually, like for whatever, and it's bizarre because it's other people and it's not what's worth it to them. It's not like the part of what I do that I think is worthwhile is what they think is worthwhile. Often there's like a real asymmetry between what I think I'm good at and what people think is worthwhile. And so there's this like kind of magical unknown between like, this is my favorite, you'd be like, this is my favorite photograph. This is the one that has the most divine spark of inspiration. And like, no one wants that one. And everyone wants like the picture of like the dead cat or, whatever it is. But there's this idea that not only are you good at something, but what you're producing is worth it. It's worth people's energy, their time, their money, their attention. I wonder if there's some challenge in that.
Yeah, and one other thing I just want to say is that you were saying that like when you guys partnered up and you brought your skill set together, that's how now you're here. And so it goes back. I think there is something about partnership that really helps, because yes, you're making me think about things that are a little uncomfortable, which is amazing. Like I think that's how you grow. But would we be having this conversation if you hadn't met and teamed up with him? And I just wonder how we bring that sort of like community to people as well. Sorry, just thinking out loud about that.
Yeah.
I got to
tell you, if I hadn't remained close with Matt as he went through this entrepreneurial journey, which started maybe 10 years ago for him, when he was like kind of burned out, sick of being poor, and was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do something to make money because I'm tired of being poor, And so that's what started this journey for him. If I hadn't stayed close with him during this time, there's just like a much higher likelihood that I would be here with you just dissing the entire modern economy and being like, you know what? That's all fucked up. And the only people who are making it are sellouts and losers and hacks and like real artists and real creators. I mean, I spent a lot of my adult life like following Gandhi, and I think Gandhi is still like my guiding light, but he's definitely not like pushing me to become entrepreneurial.
So how did this happen? Because you clearly have this knowledge and this skill set. I mean, you cut right to it with me. So what is it that if you hadn't been working with Matt, that we would be having that conversation instead of this one of dissing everyone?
Yeah. It's just, I think everyone has a piece of the puzzle. Everyone has a piece of the truth. And in college, I got really into, in high school and college, I got really into Marx and Chomsky and then Gandhi. And there's this whole very sophisticated, very insightful, and I think fundamentally true critique of commercialism, modern society, the way capital operates, selfishness, greed. That's all true. And that I have, and you probably, I'm guessing you relate to a lot of that. And we see it around us, and we see the excesses of it all around us. And then there's also this like other side that's just this incredible beauty of the market. And this is something that, when I studied the market in political economy in college, and like Ricardo and Smith and Marx and all that shit, that's like very idealized form of the market that people have a lot of theories about, experiments and this and that. But as part of my journey into agriculture, which I spent a lot of time in my adult life doing organic farming, I had to go work at a farmer's market. And so I would work, 5 days or 6 days in the field. And then Saturday morning, we wake up at 4 a.m., my friend Scott or Lana, and we drive over to Port Townsend, the next town, and set up the market and be there at the market all day. And that was my first real experience when I was 26 years old with the market. And I had plenty of jobs. I worked in tech and all this stuff, but this was actually like the market, like the free market in a way. But we were selling strawberries and bok choy and cauliflower and garlic and all this stuff. And it was amazing. And you realize that with like at the core of the market, and this is nothing capitalist about this, right? The market existed before capitalism. It's going to exist after capitalism. It's just this space where people get together and voluntarily exchange whatever it is that they created with joy. And the beauty of it, and this is not always the case, right? In our modern world, but it was the case at the farmer's market, is that everybody thinks that they're getting a great deal. Like we're selling the strawberries or the garlic or whatever. And we're stoked to be getting like $5 a pint. And the people who are buying the strawberries are like, they've had the strawberries that are cheaper in the store that taste like cardboard. And they're like, damn, every single one of these strawberries tastes like God. They're stoked. And they're like, man, I'd pay double this amount to have strawberries. It's good. And so everyone thinks that they're getting a steal. They're really like getting the best part of the bargain. And for me, that was, I don't think I had the verbalization of the theory at that time, but it felt really amazing. It felt just amazing to be that way. And I got in touch with sales. Like I had written, I don't know if I'd written both the books I'd written by that point, but I'd written a couple of books and never wanted to do any marketing, never wanted to do any sales. I listed them, I self-published. I was really like averse to all of the commerce stuff. I was like, people will find them. It'll benefit people to find them. I'm never going to talk about them even. I still like hardly ever talk about them. But I got this experience of how wonderful it can be to like exchange. And then later, as I started like studying more of like the entrepreneurial stuff, that came back to me. And I was like, oh yeah, this is really important. And there's this difference between price and value. And I use that as my business right now. Like when we sell a program, I want the value, perceived value to the person. So if I sell you into my coaching program, it's going to cost like $10,000, but I only want you to do it if you get $50,000 worth of value. Cause I want you to feel like, damn, that was such a good deal. I would do that at double the price. That's, and that's a high bar, and not every product is like you buy this piece of crap thing off Amazon that was like $15 and you're like, maybe it's like you think it's actually worth $5 after you've installed it, or maybe you think it's worth $20. Maybe it's like, okay, that was like in the ballpark, but it's not often that you're like, oh, that was worth 5 times. But that's something we aspire to.
That's a really interesting way to kind of reframe the market and the interactions with people, it's actually really insightful. Like I feel like so much of commercialism today, I guess it makes me feel gross, like you're bombarded with everywhere you go. Everyone is trying to sell you something, get something from you. But you're right. There's an interaction that happens in those moments. The farmer's market, like going to a great restaurant, like, it just feels feels like you're getting an ice cream cone again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And there's this,
wow, that's
there's this
really
moment.
insightful.
Oh, sorry to cut you off.
That was just really insightful.
Thank you. Yeah. There's this moment that this guy Nash, so we worked for this guy Nash at this farm, who's still around, and my friend, he's an amazing, he's like in his mid 80s, but he's kind of a and he's a very, at the once like a very practical guy. He's like reading the New York Times every day. He's really interested in like discussing foreign policy, but he's also this like really mystical guy. And he's really tuned in, like, oh yeah, all the machinery at the farm tends to break around the new moon. And he can like predict the weather. And at one point, we were going to 8 different farmers markets. It was the biggest organic farm in Western Washington. You had all these wholesale accounts, and we're like, why are we growing fucking parsley? No one buys parsley. It's definitely a lot. Like if you look at the spreadsheets, it's like a total loss. And there's other little crops like that. And he's like, the whole point of the market, it's just what you said. It's about energy and it's about relationships. It's like, I could do all my selling wholesale and I need way fewer employees. You'd have like less margin, but you'd have like less employees. You could scale up. That's what all the big agricultural companies do. Like they don't go to farmers markets, Earthbound Organics does not go to farmers, right? But he's like, it's about the connection with the community. It's about the love. And like when you go to the market, you want to have everything that person wants. You're not just going to sell them the cash crop. You're going to be there and be like, hey, we're here for your dinner. And you can get the garlic and the strawberries and the basil and the chives and the parsley. Yeah. So I grew up in this town, and he's from Iowa. He moved here like in the 60s. I think he biked across the country, just biking all over the West, got to this valley, which is a really beautiful place. And he saw it. He was like, I'm stopping here. And he started farming there. I think he started farming before I was born, maybe sometime in the early 70s. And so in high school, I was friends with his stepson. And through that, I would actually fix his computers. I had a business fixing computers in high school, and he wouldn't pay me. He would just pay me in vegetables. Like, you're like, give these to your mom. And I was like, yeah, this is so lame. But my mom loved it, And then when I got into farming, I was actually living in Argentina and Patagonia, and I studied some organic farming down there. And then I was going to come back. I didn't know I was just traveling. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy Nash, he used to always pay me in vegetables. And so I came back here to visit my mom. I hung out with him, and he offered me a job. He was a little skeptical. I mean, he looked at my hands. I was like, I want to learn farming. And he like shook my hands and looked at them, and there's like, computer programmer. It's like, there's no calluses on these hands. He was skeptical, but he hired.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He nourished you, in so many different ways. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, really. And so many other people, he's responsible for a whole generation of very competent and inspired farmers.
Interesting. Yeah. I have to say that, like, as we were talking earlier, I just want to go back to this. There was a moment of like really being uncomfortable. I was very, very uncomfortable. And that's, I think those are the moments that you can really choose to grow. So I want to thank you for that. I will have to think more on this, future, but there was definitely a moment there where you challenged me in a way that is inspiring. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Rik. And maybe that's a good place for us to leave it as a pause. Okay. And then after your investigations, we can do round 2.
I would love that. Yeah. A lot to think about. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Thank you for being so, we had no idea where this was going to go. This is different. This is different than most of the interviews I do. I don't know if you've heard the other one. Yeah. You've listened to the other ones.
Yeah.
So it's not like typical, but, that's how I like it. Like both of us on our toes.
Exactly. That's how we grow.
Hi everyone, this is Martin San. producer, editor, and sound designer for the 10,000 Heroes Joe. I just wanted to take a minute to thank our guest for joining us, and also thank you for listening. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by Momentum Lab. This is the team. Pierre does our artwork, DJ Plainview composed our theme music, and I handle all the editing and sound design. And now, we are closing down this episode with a word from our main sponsor, who also happens to be our host, Ankur.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for listening. If you like this episode, there's 2 things I want you to do. 1, introduce me to the most inspiring person you know so I can have them on the show. And 2, take the next step towards us hanging out in person. Maybe that's signing up for the newsletter. Maybe that's attending an upcoming in-person or virtual event. What I'm trying to do here is destroy the basic one-to-many nature of this medium, podcast, entertainment, and replace it with something that actually builds connections between people, the beloved community, getting closer together, understanding each other, one conversation at a time. So, join me. Bye!